moment of silence. Memory of Elaine Rich, who passed away on November 6th of this year. Mrs. Rich worked for the Southington Public Schools from October 1971 until retirement in September 2004. During that time, she was a teacher's assistant, paraprofessional at the Milldale Elementary School and Daranowski Elementary School. A moment of silence for her, please. Thank you. Next item on the agenda, I'm looking,
You're going to do Nick?
I'm sorry,
Nick,
was he an employee or a board member?
he was a board member?
I don't have the information.
Oh,
That's
okay.
right.
Next
So I'd
time.
like to get the information before I
Okay.
do that, okay? I thought you were going to say that you would like to make a motion to move 2 items for me,
Yes.
MA and 10C, to perhaps 6E and F? Perhaps?
Yes. Yep. Move to, let's see, make a motion to move item 10A, approval of out-of-state overnight field trips,
To-
and 10C, resource officers report, to
6E and F.
6E and F.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Daranowski. Now I'm looking for a motion to approve the minutes from November the 10th.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Now communications from our student representatives.
Good evening, Board of Ed. Hope everyone's doing well. I'm myself, as well as Angelina, is going to be talking a little bit about the Caves and Caps conference from a few weeks ago. So on Saturday, November 19th, Angelina, Uptej, Mrs. Clark, and myself all had the opportunity to attend the Caves and Caps conference hosted in Groton. Dr. Craig Hilavik, the keynote speaker for the opening session, led an interactive presentation about how the world of music, specifically conductors, are very similar to school district leaders. In his capacity as the director of the university band at SCSU, Hilavik works with a variety of different musicians, many of which have different strengths musically. He needs to ensure a full understanding of each musician's strengths and weaknesses in order to form a functioning music ensemble, in addition to things like responding in the moment and leading different efforts. The three of us also had the opportunity to participate in a seminar with all the other Student Board of Ed members throughout the state of Connecticut, led by Eileen Baker, a member of the Old Saybrook Board of Education and CABE Board of Directors. Ms. Baker was also the driving force behind Old Saybrook's Board of Ed policy, allowing students of the district to be non-voting Board of Ed members, the first district to implement this in the year of 1995. It was clear that other districts were impressed when the three of us shared how our student rep team operates, including everything from the hiring of student representatives to dealing with student complaints and feedback to expanding our reports to cover the entire district. We led by example, and students were impressed. We were also able to gather feedback from what worked in other districts' student rep team and certain things we may want to look into expanding. And Angelina will talk about that in a moment. While we have a great construction already, there are certainly things that we noticed that should be fixed, and we will most definitely ensure that we change whatever would be beneficial to our successors and our students in the district.
Some new information we learned at the conference is that as student representatives, we are allowed to add agenda items. We would like to write an official Board of Education representative policy. We would like to give more input from the students within the high school. In that at the end of our talking, we'd like to answer any questions that the board has, whether it be about events we speak about or opinions on new procedures that the system might want to implement. Overall, we learned that as representatives, we have a greater purpose than just giving the sports report, and we greatly look forward to improving our impact over this year. If anyone has any questions about the conference or anything that was mentioned within our little speech here, we would be more than happy to answer them. And now to transition to our school report. Students had a great time at the homecoming dance in the pep rally on November 18th. This is the first pep rally that has occurred since 2019, so me and Ryan's freshman year. So students were very excited to have the opportunity to spread some school spirit. The World Language Culture Night took place today from 4 to 6, where students shared traditions as well as aspects from different cultures all around the world. People in attendance were able to learn about different cuisines, dances, geography, etc. 2 winter concerts will be taking place on the 21st of December. The first will begin at 6, including pieces from the choral ensembles at the high school. At 7:30, another concert will begin, including selections from the orchestra and several band ensembles. The Southington High School Drama Club ended its production of the 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee this weekend and is grateful to say it was a major success. Although this show may have ended, Drama Club is not slowing down as auditions for the spring musical Legally Blonde have been taking place this week. The show will take place the first weekend of March, and we hope to see you all there. Collectively, FBLA and DECA supported Connecticut Children's Hospital with a toy drive that occurred this week.
All right, so now to transition to the sports report, which everybody loves. The SHS girls volleyball team won the CCC League Championship Tournament and advanced to the semifinals of the Class LL State Tournament, falling to the eventual champion Darien. The Blue Knights field hockey team achieved its best record ever this fall. The team advanced to the quarterfinals of the Class L State Tournament. On top of this, the girls soccer team also advanced to the state quarterfinals before Cheshire prevented penalty kicks after 2 overtime periods. The Blue Knights football team was the co-champion of the CCC Tier 1 division and was ranked the number 1 seed in the Class LL football playoffs after its 21-14 win over Cheshire on Thanksgiving morning. The number 1 seeded Blue Knights came up a bit short in its quarterfinal state home playoff game, falling 34-25. The girls swimming team finished 8th in the CIAC Class LL meet and 16th overall in the state open meet at Yale University. The girls cross country team finished in 5th place at the CIAC Class LL meet and 12th place in the state open championships. The boys country team had a successful dual meet season as well. Finally, the Blue Knights golf team finished 13th at the state Division I championships, and the boys soccer team qualified for the Class LL tournament for their 2nd straight season. So overall, it was one of the most successful fall seasons in the history of SHS athletics, as all Blue Knights team competed in the CIAC postseason. So congratulations to all the fall teams as the winter teams prepare to start their regular season competitions next week. Both middle school basketball teams are practicing in advance of their competitions starting in the first week of January. And speaking of the middle schools, we're now going to start talking about the other schools. So for Darnowski, Darnowski continues to give back our community during this holiday season with their toy drive, their PA day for CCMC, their food drive, and also their Tree of Warmth. Their students are active members of all these fundraisers. And now moving to JFK, congrats to JFK's first Lego League team, the Eagle Engineers. They competed in the state qualifying competition on Saturday, November 19th against 25 other school teams. JFK is also happy to welcome our school resource officers, Kristen Muir. Officer Muir is officially joining the JFK community on Monday, 11/28. Already joined on November 28th, Monday. We're excited to have her working at JFK. Also, congratulations to Mrs. Amy Perry and Mrs. Sarah Brown, who were recognized by the Southington Education Foundation this week at a reception honoring them for their grant awards. These grants were awarded in 2019 and 2020, but due to COVID, a public recognition event was not held. Congrats to Ms. Perry, who received a mini grant of $498 for illuminating the power of diversity. This grant provides opportunities for students to read books about their chosen hero. These books extend and enrich 4 units taught on ethnic groups taught throughout the school year. Mrs. Brown received a grant of $4,943 for 21st Century Skills Middle School Robotics. This grant provides robotics kits in order to expand students' participation in the first Lego League competition. This project begins as a school-based project and eventually changes to competitions with surrounding communities. JFK's holiday concerts are also approaching very fast. The 6th grade band performs on December 12th, followed by the 7th grade band on December 13th and the 8th grade band on the 14th. The orchestra performs on the 15th and the choral concert is on the 19th. Everyone is invited to attend.
And last but not least, Apollo. Students that are in community services volunteers within Apollo's leadership program volunteered their time last week to do some bell ringing for the Salvation Army at the Southington Walmart. As a result, they raised over $800. Concert season began this week at DePaulo. Grade 8 band and jazz band had their concert Tuesday night. Grade 6 and 7 band and orchestra will have their concerts next week. Finally, DePaulo's chorus concert is set for December 20th. DePaulo's Builders Club will be holding a toy drive by collecting new, unwrapped toys until Friday, December 16th. All toys will be donated to Southington's Community Services for families in our town. And DePaulo's Grade 6 Blue Team is coordinating our annual Pajama Day fundraiser tomorrow. Proceeds will benefit Connecticut Children's Hospital. That concludes our report, and if anyone has any follow-up questions from the beginning about the conference or anything like that, we're happy to answer them. Thank you.
Anyone have any questions for our student reps? I would just like to say that the three of you made quite an impression at the conference, because I was approached by other board members from other towns saying what a great job you did. In fact, we sat with somebody at lunch. Was she one of your facilitators?
Yeah, that was Aline Baker, who was the implementer of the first policy for Old Saybrook.
She came over to me after and was delighted with the work that you did. So well done. You did us proud. Thank you. Okay, board members, communication board members? No, do have a couple of things. Just so that the public knows, Mr. Williams and Mr. Oshana are both out of town this week. And Mrs. Carmody and Mr. Bajewski are both under the weather. So hence the small number of board members that are here, and here's hoping that Terry and Joe both get better very soon. I did have the pleasure last night of attending the Southington Educational Foundation grant presentations to the teachers of Kennedy. They were from Amy Perry, Sarah, and I don't have her last name. Sarah Brown, Beth Griffin, Jessica Fletcher, and Gina Crar all gave us presentations of their work. Sarah's was the robotics, which was absolutely amazing. Mr. Medancy was there as well. And the other teachers' presentations were for expanding their library collections to reflect the diversity of their students. And as I sat there as a retired early childhood educator and also the mother of a child of color, I know the excitement when a child sees someone that looks like them the first time in a book. So to hear of the excitement of the students, to me, was just wonderful. And I also must mention that there was a grant given to the Hatton School for their new STEM room that was formerly the computer lab that they have there. I didn't get to play because I probably knocked my little thing off the table, but everyone that was in there, well, somebody said you would break it, Mr. Dancy, so don't look at me like that. But it was just so outstanding to see STEM starting at such a young age. It was really impressive. So I thank the teachers and Mr. Gary for all applying for those grants to further the education of our students. And I thank the SEF for being there, for doing the work to raise funds so that our children have these additional opportunities. And I was going to mention the convention. Mr. Carson was there. I don't know if you saw each other. I think you were in a seminar just as you were leaving. So, and Mr. Medancy was there. So yeah, we attended that as well. So that's it for me. Moving on, the administration.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. So as we have talked about and has been much covered across the multiple press outlets, the free and reduced lunch program that was state-sponsored after the government-sponsored program ended has officially ended here in Southington. So we have started with the pre-COVID routine of trying our best to communicate to all families who may be eligible, encouraging applications for families that would qualify for a free or reduced lunch, and working with our staffs to understand the borrowing policy and ensure that all of our kitchens are equipped and ready to provide meals regardless of status. So kudos to Naya Walensky and Jennifer Mellett for all of the work they've done over the past couple of years in managing that program and ensuring that our students were fed. Along the lines of positive news, I was able to attend a morning meeting at the Karen Smith Academy with the student body on Tuesday morning and congratulate their staff in front of the student body for their recognition and achievement of the Youth Development Award through the YMCA. and they are going to be recognized formally as a faculty at February 15th at the Y annual meeting. And the students, I would ask them, I said, so tell me what makes Karen Smith Academy special to you? And this, I wanted them to be able to say that in front of the staff. So, they may not just come out unsolicited and say that to the staff members, but it was a chance to put the staff members, rightly so, on a platform and a pedestal, so to speak. And it was a lot about relationships and connections and meeting the kids where they're at and knowing when they had needs. And it was a really special moment. And I was able to follow over shortly thereafter that afternoon to the YMCA, where we held a press conference and recognized the Karen Smith Academy faculty, along with the Person of the Year, Deputy Chief Paul Mary, who was being recognized by the YMCA, and we had the Tyler Deegan for Worldwide Wine and Spirits for the Social Wellness Grant, and then Margaret Miller and Griffin O'Neill for the Youth Awards. So overall, a positive day for many of the students and organizations in town. In addition, just two informational items. The mental health grant. I know when I spoke to you all last spring, it was in June, about that legislative session, they had passed some legislation and put aside a large amount of money for mental health support in schools. They finally, after the legislative session had ended, came out with the grant application process. The maximum amount that Southington was able to apply for was $120,000. We have submitted a grant application for that full amount, which, if received, helps to replenish and put back the money into our PESA that we allocated towards the additional mental health staff, which would hopefully allow us to extend that mental health support back into next year due to receiving the grant. So I will keep you posted on the status of that. And then something new that we've done this year, and it'll come out a little bit further in the budget process, but I just really, there was a lot of hard work that went into this in the Pupil Services Office, pursuing excess cost for our in-district programs. We've always pursued excess costs for students that were outplaced, and normally we reach that threshold fairly quickly when you think about the 4.5 times per pupil expenditure and what some of the outplacement tuition and transportation costs are. When we researched further and realized we had been pursuing in-district excess, we were able to look at some students here that are receiving significant specialized services and support in our multi-tiered systems of support, that continuum of programs that we talked about during the special ed tuition analysis. And I'm proud to say that we have submitted for $265,000 in excess cost reimbursement for the state, which is something that's never been pursued by the district before. So when we hear what that announcement is back in January, we will certainly report back to the board on that. That may hopefully help us to offset the reduction that the district saw in the IDEA grant that Mrs. Mellett has talked about, or Title I, multiple times, that it was such a minute decimal percentage that we fell under a threshold by that we saw a significant decrease in that grant. It's about the same amount, so to speak. So it ends up being a wash for the district, but it would have been a deficit of $200,000+. So again, many thanks to the special ed office to itemize every student by every service we provide for them, cost it out against the cost of per pupil expenditure to submit to the state. Is once you do it once, you know what the costs are for those services for all students, and so it should be something that we can continue to do going forward. So that is my report for this evening. Thank you.
Anyone have any questions? I do have one question. Do we have a timeline for the mental health grant? When you'll be notified, or when we will be notified, or?
Mrs. Mellon?
It's a competitive grant, so they have to evaluate the applications that were received and go through and make sure everything was complete. So we'll keep you up to date.
Okay. Thank you. Communications from the public. Does anyone in the public here speak? Going once, going twice. Okay. That brings us to item 6E, which is the approval of out-of-state overnight field trips. Do I have a motion regarding that?
Catch up here.
It was 10A, so if that helps. It's the wrestling team going to Lowell High School and Timberlane High School. Okay. Okay.
Move to approve the out-of-state overnight field trip request for the SHS wrestling team.
Second.
Okay. Any questions? I just had one because I couldn't read my copy and I wasn't sure. So how many students are going to the first trip on the where is it? Lowell? Yeah, the Lowell one. Is it 15 students? Oh, you didn't have to. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. I know. I couldn't. My copy kind of got.
Garb, I just came from practice. So each one of these tournaments, there'll be 14,
14 students?
students.
Okay. Okay. That's
That's the starting lineup. We don't know which 14 yet, but it'll be 14.
and just for out of curiosity, Coach, how many students are on the team now?
We're about 56 right now.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for Coach? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays?
Aye.
Yep. Okay. Motion passes. Thank you. The next item is the 2021-2022 School Resource Officer Report. Mr. McGinnis, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to invite at this time Lieutenant Lepard to the podium. He has a copy of the report, and he's going to brush over some of the details within it. And I would also like to use this opportunity to publicly introduce both of our school resource officers. So, Brian, if you can invite them up and just have them say hello and a brief introduction, that would be great.
So if you're not familiar, this is our high school SRO. It's James Valentine. This will be his 4th complete year.
4th year.
At the high school. I'm sure everybody is familiar with him. If you're not familiar with him, you should get familiar with him. And this is our newly appointed middle school resource officer, Kristen Muir, who brings a wealth of knowledge with her from a previous agency. We are her second agency, and in her previous, she worked with juveniles in the school systems, and so it's not a first go around for Kristen. You guys got questions about?
No, I'd just like to say welcome.
Welcome. And Kristen, I just want to make sure this is the second and last agency.
Yes.
Oh, it is definitely the last agency. 26 years. I'm that out after another 4.
Excellent. Well, we're glad to have you.
Okay, the floor is yours, sir.
Fantastic. So you guys have a copy of the report. Do you guys have any specific questions about the report? You want me to just briefly breeze over it?
I think for the public's sake, if you could just give a balcony level overview.
I'm going to read it for you because I think it kind of briefly wraps up what goes on. So the school resource officer's assignment has multiple roles in the community and school environment, including but not limited to encouraging compliance with federal laws, state laws and local laws, as well as enforcing those when applicable, providing a safe environment for students, staff, parents, and visitors, investigating allegations of criminal activity or complaint. The school resource officer can make referrals to the court system, the STEPS program, juvenile review board, and this is all by way of enforcement. He attends meetings, events, or anything else requested by the school district. So both of our school resource officers are obviously at your request. So if we get requests, we try to fulfill them the best we can, and it's usually generally never a problem. That's football games, proms, special events, away games, whatever it is that you go is requested of us. The school resource officer also provides support in the area of conflict resolution, intervention, mentoring, and problem solving. I wrote this report, so it is my personal opinion that I believe that the most important role and objective of the school resource officer is building positive relationships while providing a safe environment for everyone. Our school resource officers take great pride in what they do and what they have accomplished over years while we've built our program. So we've had school resource officers for quite some time, but I think that if you walk around the school or you talk about the high school or middle schools, they make a lot of friendships and bonds, and they're trusted there, and they're a go-to resource for teachers and students and visitors. And there's some enforcement numbers on the back. We won't go over them individually. So these are complaints to sum it up, the more serious complaints have gone down. And then, so the numbers you see are going up, but the more serious side of complaints are going down. So your assaults or whatever. Do you guys have any questions about these?
I do.
Go ahead.
I think the question would probably be directed toward Mr. Valentine. So out of the 74 incidents that you have listed here, how many of these were arrests versus handled by school administration? The total number it said was 74.
So it's a hard number to give you because, especially when you're dealing with juveniles, there's a multi-tier system, especially with cannabis arrests, which is an arrest. So you get warnings, and you go to a juvenile review board, which isn't an arrest. It's not on here, but the total number of arrests during the school year was 2.
It's not on here, but where is it?
2
2.
for this school year. That is arrests. So
And that was at the high school?
right, and so that's where someone would have to appear in court.
That's
So that doesn't include like your JRB, which is a court diversionary program, your STEPS programs, where if they are doing something they shouldn't be involved in, they go through. We try to divert out of the court system. That's kind of our last resort. I just didn't put the number.
Well, I mean, like, he's the SRO, so I figured I'd just ask him.
Yeah, no, it was perfectly said. I mean, 2 arrests. We try not to put them into court.
Yeah.
We try to redirect them.
Yep.
Either it's another counseling session, or I don't know, or we just try to, like, if they're going on a wrong path,
Yes.
try to redirect.
Yeah.
And if it's court, and then it's got to be court. But sometimes court will just take it right back down to JRB, and that's what they're looking at now. So, and the JRB, I think, is doing a fantastic job.
Okay.
Right now, so it's good.
And one more question. Could you walk me through a typical day for you at the high school, if you wouldn't mind?
Okay. Well, there's no typical days there.
All right, well, my husband's a cop, so I get it. Like, there's no
anything
typical day.
happens,
I get it.
I usually start off with me and Mr. Pepe when he first started there. We sit right there by the buses.
Okay.
Say good morning to everybody. We would almost take turns there, but now I'm the full one there. So, so it's good morning to all the kids, whether they're getting dropped off by kids or at the buses or something like that. You go in the morning, try to walk around, see everybody. I try to hit almost every end of the building, whether it's the behavioral part, corner kitchen, freshman academy. Just try to touch base with a lot of the teachers, main office, principals. Then usually by lunch period, I'll go in through the caf. I'll take a walk through. Some kids will have a question. They have a question about what I have, some of the equipment I have, like what's that? What do you use this for? Some of them have like little law questions here and there. So I try to answer that. Mentor questions, like last year I got a couple of kids to go to college, which they weren't going to do anything to them. So one student, I actually took the hand, I walked her right to the counseling session. I'm like, hey, she needs to sign up for Tunxus. She's too afraid to come here to ask. So she got signed up. She's going there now. She's doing pretty good. So
Good.
It's not a typical day, but
Yeah, no, I know. I get it. I get it.
that's my gist of what
All right.
I do.
You did say typical, so that's why you got that.
Typical. I mean,
That's
again,
the typical part.
I know there's no. I
There'll
know
be a
there's
lot
no,
of different things coming into
Yeah.
play. You never know.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. I appreciate it. All right. Good. Thank you.
All I can say is that keep up the good work.
Thank you.
There's nothing but great things I'm hearing, and it's been a long time. 4 years now?
4 years.
Yeah.
4 years. Yeah. This is I think I'm the first one for 4 years. And Rondo, he resigned from it after 3. So
Yeah.
I hit 4. Love it. Love the kids. Kids are great.
Yeah.
Kind of got cheated a little bit out of COVID. We were like for a little bit, and then we're back and forth for a little while.
Well, I know the kids have a lot of respect for you, so that goes a long way.
Very much.
Okay, Mr. Pepe.
There was one item that Officer Valentine left out on a typical day, and being there firsthand and watching, a typical day also involves a constant stream of students that seek out Jimmy's advice and counsel every single day. I think every educator prides themselves when you have kids that want to come talk to you and work through an issue. I witnessed time after time where kids would ask me where Officer Valentine was. Like, this was preppy, where's Officer Valentine? Yeah. So that is part of a typical day as well.
That is part. That is definitely. I do have a little line at my office door.
Yeah.
Today was that day. I had about 3 or 4. I mean, it's other questions. Some feel comfortable talking to me and not their social worker or their counselor. They just have a quick question. So.
And that goes to prove the relationship portion is the most important, because you're making sure that no child falls through the cracks. So I thank you on behalf of the board. Keep up the good work, and thank you. And good luck with our middle schools. They're good kids too. Good. Anybody else? No question? Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Excellent. Have a good night.
You also.
Next item on the agenda is the Policy and Personnel Committee, and I neglected to ask anybody. Mr. Pepe, would you? Okay.
Sure.
'Cause I didn't ask you ahead of time, I'm sorry.
So our committee met on November 16th, and in 9325, related samples were reviewed. Policy 9325 was revised last year, and it increased the potential allotted time to each speaker during comment from 3 to 5 minutes. The current discussion considered 2 separate public comment sections each meeting. The first would occur as it typically does within the agenda and be dedicated first to items on the agenda. The time limit would be designated. The second public comment section would occur at the end of the meeting in case a Southington resident did not have the clear opportunity to speak. The committee members want to ensure the public has every opportunity to speak to educational items, whether or not the item is on the agenda, and balance the time needed to complete the business of the board. I was directed to draft a revision of Policy 9325 to reflect these parameters, and I will present it to the committee at the next scheduled meeting. The committee also reviewed a proposal to restructure curricular stipend positions. Middle school curriculum leaders in ELA, math, science, unified arts, which includes physical education, family, consumer science, art, health, technology education, and computers, remain unfilled. Social studies and special education are the only positions currently filled. The vacant positions are attributed to a reallocation plan which occurred over 8 years ago. As curricular cycles never cease, these areas need oversight and development. The proposed reorganization considers elementary areas which can be linked with the middle level for clearer vertical articulation. The proposal is dependent each year on grant funding. If the funding is not secured, the positions cannot be filled. With approval, the stipend job descriptions will be created and presented at your meeting. And the next 2 pages, included in your packets, provide the descriptors of the actual positions. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Can I just ask the committee members?
Yes, please.
Do we need a motion to approve the funding?
Well, and that's what I was going to ask is these positions are contingent on grant funding, correct? What can you share a little bit more information about the grant application process and where the grants are coming from?
Sure, we'd be looking into the title grant funds.
Okay.
And as we know, we work diligently to apply for title grant application funding for a variety of reasons. This very needed area, and we know it is going to be contingent on whether or not that funding comes in every year, whether or not we could provide the positions versus the operating budget.
So currently, they're not filled,
Right.
except for two, I believe.
So currently, the two that are filled, looking at the reorganization plan, also expanded some of the responsibilities and is redefining what needs to occur. So we have not had before positions that have included the elementary, some elementary areas, and that is needed. So we have that vertical articulation from K-8 in certain areas, as well as isolating the middle school areas that need the curricular oversight.
Mr. McDaniel, so you wanted to?
Sure, and I think just for around the grants, the Title II grant is an annual entitlement grant, so it's not one that we necessarily have to apply for. It's an entitlement grant that we get every year. We're not always clear what the amount is going to be each year, just like we talked about with Title I with Mrs. Mallet. Based on the formula, we saw a reduction. So to Mr. Pepe's point, if in any given year with Title II the funds are not there to fill the positions, that would have to be a year that they would remain unfilled, given that we're not going to be putting them into the operating budget. With that said, Title II being an entitlement grant, just like all of the title grants, 1, 2, 3, and 4, you have to use them for a specific purpose. So the only use in allocation of Title II funds is for curriculum development, professional development, and that and conferences, things like that, which aligns perfectly with the use of these type of positions in those funds. So it would be approved within our grant application as an appropriate use of those funds. But to your point, yes, it would be contingent upon the funds being available.
Okay, and this would be for next year's.
So I would let Mr. Pepe and Mrs. Mellett speak to that, but I believe this year we may have, if these positions are approved, the funding in Title II based on what we currently got for this fiscal year to fill those positions once approved by the board as redesigned. The social studies, I was actually part of the reallocation 8 years back. The social studies and special ed, when we were making reductions to come up with a balanced budget that May, we remained filled the entire time. We've never eliminated those because we didn't have a social studies coordinator.
Right.
And for special ed, just given the size and the importance of the department, we left that filled. So those, it's more of a redefined role for those positions. But yes, to your point, it's contingent upon the grant funding.
So for this year that they're not filled, when are you notified of the grants?
So the money is encumbered at this point, and we know that the money is available. Taking it one step at a time, if the board approves, then I'll move forward with redesigning and rewriting job descriptions, because
So
it is not what we're asking and what we're looking for is different than what was reallocated from 8 years ago.
Okay, so then
we need the board's approval for
we
you
need a
to
motion, yeah.
go forward and rewrite the job descriptions. I would take a consensus, or do you need a vote?
I would say it's a consensus because you're actually going to formally approve the job descriptions once
Yeah,
they're presented to you.
Yeah, I'm trying to
But,
in proper order.
yeah, because the funding
It's already in place.
is already in place, so we don't have to worry about, so, okay, so now we'd have to just take a consensus.
I would say give
Yes.
authorization to the board or to the administration to follow through with the job descriptions.
Okay,
I'm in favor,
Yeah,
yes.
me too.
and I am, okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay,
Geez, after 32 years, I thought I went through every complex scenario going.
well,
This is a new one.
which step comes first? May I just ask one question, with the first part of the report, the two opportunities for the public to speak. I don't know if this came up in your meeting.
Yep.
How many communities are doing it currently?
Dude,
We have a number.
there's a few.
Well, I that's why I was just kind of curious if you had looked into that.
There's an extreme variation community to community of how public speaking and public comment is handled. Some communities that handle it after every single agenda item, public comment is brought up. That's one extreme. The other extreme being that there's a limit, there's only one session, there's a limit of 20 minutes, and when those 20 minutes are up, that's all that there is. To the extreme of, if it is not on the agenda, then you cannot comment on it. So as the committee went through all of these different variations, it was very clear that no one wanted to limit comments because we believe that we're here to listen. And so how do we strike the balance between what's on the agenda, what isn't on the agenda, giving priority to agenda items, but not limiting comments to only agenda items? And that's where the two different sessions come into play.
And I believe I was the one who kind of brought that up because we have a role, and this is a business meeting for the board, and we should spend the majority of our time concentrating on the business of the board. And we've had issues where, we've spent an hour and a half to 2 hours listening on something that had nothing to do with anything that we were dealing with before. But we need to kind of focus our work in the time that we have on that. So that's where we are, to having this type of discussion, see how we'll, how we can keep everybody happy, but yet
Do the
keep our
work of the
focus
board,
on what we
yes.
do,
Yes, the work of the board.
work of the board.
Yes. Okay. All right, any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Pepe. Okay, superintendent's report, the personnel report. Do I have a motion?
Yep. Move to approve the personnel report as submitted.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those, any questions? Yes.
I noticed an old,
Yeah.
when I first got on the board, there was one person that I kind of gravitated to, and Marion Standard. And, and not that I'm not disappointed she's leaving because she's earned the retirement that
Yes.
she's coming up.
Disappointed.
But I tell you, she's done a remarkable job, mild-mannered. I mean, you can ask for a better leader in that area. And sorry to see her go, but I'm happy for her.
Agreed, very much agreed. She's run a wonderful program for so many years and has earned.
Going to be a very hard position to fill.
I agree. Shoes to fill.
Yes.
Yes.
Gotcha. Any other comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Old business, town government communications? I don't have any. Anybody have any? Nope. Okay. Now we have a lot of second reads here. So, policy 1543 revised and adopted as policy 4118.31, school employee reports of suspected abuse or neglect of children or reports of sexual assault of children. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any questions? You can jump in when you want. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next one, policy 5127, completion rates of the free application for federal student aid, FAFSA.
So
Second
moved.
reading?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Policy 5144, physical activity, undirected play, revised second reading.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Southington High School Introduction to Psychology course curriculum. Do I have a motion for that?
So moved.
Second.
Jump in at anything.
Oh, I figured he was going to do all of them.
They're on a roll.
I keep hitting him to say.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion for Southington High School Classical Mythology, new course curriculum, second reading.
So moved.
Somebody?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Don't torture me. SHS General Chemistry Unit, Bundle 2, Bonding and Intermolecular Forces. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
I got a question.
Oh, you have a question?
Yeah.
That was
I
fascinating.
got to break up the.
Okay,
monotony
break
here.
it up.
I read through this, and I have to say, we've got courses that are now going to be in the high school that are way beyond what and I thought I had it tough when I was in high school. There's no way I could.
Uh-uh.
This is,
It flew so far over my head when it was being presented, you have no idea.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Did it not? Mrs. Zapone is sitting there going, yeah, I did.
Yeah,
Mrs. Carmody and I just sat there going,
yeah, this
this
is,
is amazing.
Was that based on the position, velocity, and acceleration?
Okay, don't make me say that again. All right, please. No, the science courses are just absolutely, they're just amazing. Absolutely.
Yes.
So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay. And Mrs. Carmody's favorite, SHS Accelerated Physics Unit 2, Forces in Motion. Do I have,
so moved.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
The SHS Accelerated Biology Unit 1, the Chemistry of Life. Do I have a motion to
So
approve?
moved.
Okay,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Science, Grade 3, Unit 2, the Grand Canyon Seashells. Do I
So
have a
moved.
motion?
So moved.
Second.
I'm going to comment. I was,
Beat me to it.
yeah.
Yeah, for third grade.
For third grade, and I'm just sitting there going, I never learned that. There's so much that we're doing that is just at that level
Yeah.
is absolutely amazing. Absolutely. Got a motion, we have a second?
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. This is another one. Science Grade 4, Unit 3, Energizing Everything.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Science, Grade 5, Unit A, 1A, Spectacular Sights in the Sky.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Science, Grade 7, Unit 3, Ecosystem Dynamics.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Terrific. Okay. That's the old business. Yep. And now we're on to new business. We've already done 1A and C. Now it's the proposed 23-24 school calendar. Mr. Medancy, you want to say it's the first reading?
Yes, so as is tradition, this is our first read that I bring to you this evening. I'd like to thank Mrs. Colgrove, who worked hard on this iteration of the calendar. If you knew how many times I sent her back to make tweaks and adjustments to the best layout and easiest to follow for families and highlighting important dates and communicating information out to our families. She does a wonderful job with that. We lay eyes on it as an administrative team, get any feedback for them about any potential conflicts of dates. And so after tonight's first reading, as is tradition in Southington, we will push this iteration of the calendar out to our school community, gather any feedback that they may have and suggestions. I compile that into one summary for all of you so that you would have that before any formal motion or adoption at the next meeting. So no action on this item.
No action. Okay. Any questions? Nope. Okay. Item 10D, Winchester Estates Development.
Thank you. So as you may be aware, there was a lot of conversation about the development just off behind of Churchill Street of 34 homes that are being built, and they are breaking ground, and we're starting to receive calls from families about what is the designated school district for this development. The challenge we have, as you all know, is Thalberg Elementary School is at capacity. It has been, even to the point that the last major development in Southington, which was off of Loper Street, we did a pocket designation to Flanders because of the capacity at Thalberg. Given where this is located, given the space that we have at Kelly Elementary School, and given future redistricting scenarios that we've started to discuss with SLAM, our consultant around the elementary facilities project, there's all the reason in the world to believe that this development would ultimately land in the Kelly School District anyways. And given that they have the space there now and they're breaking ground now, despite the fact that we may not have a new Kelly school for a few years yet, I would strongly encourage the board to recommend that this development be designated to the Kelly School District so that families know what school they're starting at and they stay there. So it'd be looking for a motion from the board.
It move to approve the recommendation of the administration.
Second.
Okay. Can I just ask, busing, we don't know at the present time, because they just broke ground. We have no idea how many students were gonna,
No.
but you did get a call from somebody who's.
We've gotten
Oh,
from two different families so far. We started to receive calls about what will be the designated school district. Right now, students that live on Churchill Street do attend Thalberg, and actually that busing is a challenge. Mr. Romano has discussed that before in terms of without going the highway, no real direct quick way to get over to Thalberg. Busing from that development to Kelly Schools is actually easy. It's a right onto West Street, and Kelly's right up on the left. So we don't see it as a challenge.
Okay, okay. Any other
Just as a secondary comment, in light, and I'm going to vote to approve this, but in light of the timeline that's in front of us for any school renovation programs or projects coming forward, we're looking at, I would say, 3 to 4 years before we'd be in a position to know where we are. I believe we may have to have a consideration for a modified redistricting plan for the whole district to try and level things out, because it's been quite a few years since we've done one. And the way the building has been going, we've got pockets. We've been trying to
piecemeal?
patch it,
Yeah.
and it's getting to the point now where it's going to be very cumbersome. So something to consider for next year.
Absolutely, I completely agree.
Okay.
Well, and I think that's where I fall as well, right? And my hesitancy in, like making an ad hoc recommendation to, okay, we have this new community within the district. Where do we send the students? Obviously, yes, we have to do it in real time and accommodate those families and those students. But again, I would reiterate, my board member in saying that we need to engage the community and have an overall thought process and plug into how we're going to redistrict overall. And so, if this is a starting point of that, absolutely. But yeah, bigger picture, we need to realign everything.
So we know that the two items that were coming forward as a district was in 2022 was the athletic complex, and in 2023 was elementary facilities. Now, I think as an elementary facilities committee, the subcommittee of the board needs to think about the cost of escalation and the cost of construction against the debt service to the town. So whether it ends up being one school, two schools, three school, whatever that recommendation of the committee is to the full board, and what you ultimately decide, I think is a big part in terms of how that plays out relative to redistricting. There's a certain correlation for sure. And I would agree, because what happens with a lot of the pocket districting that has occurred over the year is extra transportation costs that go with it, because the routes don't necessarily align with the feeder schools that the students are attending. So we certainly plan on engaging the community in that conversation soon, and so I completely agree.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, I do believe. All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes. Next item is the capital improvement plan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I want to thank you for allowing us to table this, because the last board meeting was shortly after the referendum, so we needed a little time to get updated pricing and cost out an itemized athletic complex project list, so that we could span out the cost that would now fall within capital over a period of time, prioritizing the Title IX and the safety and liability concerns, as you would see. So you'll see the lighting, the tennis courts, the track, the bleachers, and the turf field were the primary items for always under consideration within the entire project, along with enhancements and upgrades to other portions of the complex. So we were able to span that out over some period of time. There is purposely nothing in 23-24 relative to the athletic complex because of our ask of the town to go to referendum for an elementary facility, knowing what the price tag would be relative to let's say new construction of a Kelly school at a November 2023 referendum, to ask for that bonding, and then also ask for athletic projects would be a big ask, and we have to consider the impact on the debt service to the community and the overall, town budget. So it was very strategic and intentional in that regard. With that said, my plan would be, because this really is a first read and there's no action needed tonight, to attend the January 9th Town Council meeting, discuss with those folks in terms of any questions, concerns, suggestions they may have within this current iteration, bring it back to all of you as feedback so that you can amend as appropriate prior to formal adoption at the January meeting. So I will have further feedback from other town officials, because ultimately our capital plan becomes part of the town manager's capital plan, and he has to make prioritized decisions over what he feels the town board and what the debt service impact would be to the community. So no action needed on this.
Any questions or comments? We all get to study it. And the last item, hold also the superintendent's proposed goals for the 22-23.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, I feel like you've had these for quite a while. Originally, these were presented on October 24th to all. We ended up having to cancel that meeting because illness hit the board and we didn't have a quorum. And then I was unable to attend the last board meeting, and I thank the board for tabling that so I could attend to a family matter. But as we approach my mid-year evaluation, you have a draft of my goals. With that said, I'm fully prepared to update you still as part of my mid-year, because I've been working on these goals and have plenty to add and update as appropriate, and plan on meeting with you for a mid-year to discuss progress on them.
So, do we have a motion to approve the superintendent's goals?
A little slow down.
Okay,
Sorry.
all right.
I got it.
You got, I'm.
Wait, James did it? Okay.
James got it. All right.
Dad, you're
So now,
slow.
any comments?
I'm not going to be as critical as I was last year. We have talked, and I think they're laid out in such a way that they're tough, but I think they're doable and they're very realistic. So, good job.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Any comments? They are doable. They're not, they're reasonable, but I have to laugh because this was back in October and things have changed, so it'll be interesting, your mid-year review. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. Okay. And the last item on the agenda.
We will need to go into executive session.
Move to go into executive session, excluding the public and the press, to discuss a student matter. On conclusion, coming back into open session. And we'll see what we do after that.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Terrific. I'm sorry, I forgot about that. See what happens?
Oh, yeah.